It started as just another normal morning in the Bennett household. Lisa Bennett, a hard-working single mother, stood in the kitchen, packing lunch for her 10-year-old daughter, Emma. The smell of freshly toasted bread filled the air as she glanced at the clock. Almost time for the school bus. Emma, despite being blind since birth, was fiercely independent, always determined to do things on her own. And with her loyal guide dog, Max, by her side, she navigated the world with confidence. Max was more than just a service animal, he was Emma's best friend, her protector, and her eyes in a world she couldn't see. Lisa had always trusted him completely. But lately, something felt off. Emma had been coming home quieter than usual, her normally bright and bubbly personality dimmed. When Lisa asked if something was wrong, Emma would just shake her head and give a small, unconvincing smile. Lisa's motherly instincts told her something wasn't right. Maybe it was just school stress. Or maybe it was something more. That morning, as Lisa knelt to attach Emma's backpack securely, her eyes fell on Maximum. He sat patiently beside Emma, his golden fur gleaming in the sunlight filtering through the kitchen window. An idea sparked in Lisa's mind. She had seen other parents use small cameras to check in on babysitters or track their pets' behavior. What if she did the same with Max? Not to invade Emma's privacy, but just to see what was happening at school. It was a simple setup. A tiny, lightweight camera attached to Max's harness, barely noticeable. Lisa told herself it was just for peace of mind, a way to ease her growing unease. After all, if there was nothing to worry about, she could delete the footage and move on. As the school bus pulled up, Emma gave Lisa a quick hug. "See you later, Mom," she said cheerfully, her cane tucked under one arm as she held onto Max's harness. Lisa smiled and waved, but as the bus doors closed, a nagging worry settled in her chest. Hours later, after finishing up work, Lisa settled onto the couch, her laptop in front of her. She plugged in the camera and clicked on the first video file. The footage flickered to life, showing Max's perspective as he guided Emma into school. The familiar hallways, the shuffling of kids, the occasional sound of laughter, it all seemed normal. Lisa exhaled, feeling a bit silly for even being worried. But then, the footage changed. The friendly voices around Emma seemed to quiet down. As Max walked forward, the camera angle shifted, catching glimpses of faces, some sneering, others whispering. Emma hesitated, her small fingers tightening slightly on Max's harness. A boy's voice broke the silence. "Did you bring your little dog again, Emma?" The tone wasn't friendly. It was mocking. Lisa's stomach twisted as she watched Emma's shoulders tense. "Of course she did," another voice chimed in. "She can't even walk straight without it." A few kids chuckled. Lisa's fingers gripped the laptop harder. This wasn't just teasing. There was something cruel in their words, something sharp that made her heart pound. "Hey, Emma," the first voice continued. "I heard dogs can smell fear. Are you scared right now?" There was a pause. Emma lifted her chin slightly, her voice steady but quiet. "No." A sudden jolt in the footage. Max had stepped back. The laughter grew. "Oops," someone snickered. "Didn't mean to spook your mutt." Lisa's pulse raced. The next few minutes of footage were a blur of movements, Emma walking, Max leading her carefully, more hushed voices, the scrape of a chair. And then, suddenly, the camera shook violently. A loud thud. Emma gasped. The sounds of laughter erupted again. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Max's perspective showed the floor, the scattered contents of Emma's backpack. Someone had shoved her. Before Lisa could react, the footage cut to something else. Another part of the school day. Lunch. Emma sat alone at a table, her hands resting in front of her, Max curled up beside her. From the camera's angle, Lisa could see the cafeteria, kids chatting, eating, playing. But no one sat with Emma. No one spoke to her. And then, from the side, a tray was shoved onto the table, spilling food everywhere. More laughter. Lisa's hands were shaking now. She skipped forward in the video, watching helplessly as the mistreatment continued. Whispered insults. Shoves. Emma staying silent, her fingers tightening on Max's fur every time. By the time the final clip ended, Lisa felt sick. She had suspected something was wrong. But this was far worse than she had imagined. Without a second thought, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Her voice was sharp, urgent. "I need to report an incident at my daughter's school." Lisa's hands trembled as she clutched the phone, waiting for a response. Her mind raced with a mix of anger, fear, and disbelief. How could this have been happening for so long without her knowing? Emma had always been strong, never wanting to be treated differently because of her blindness. But now, Lisa saw the silent pain her daughter had been carrying all along. The dispatcher's voice came through the line, calm and professional. 911, what's your emergency? Lisa took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I need to report bullying, harassment. My daughter, she's blind, and I just saw footage from her guide dog's camera. Kids at her school have been hurting her. She struggled to keep her voice from breaking. They pushed her. They threw things. I need someone to do something. The dispatcher asked a few routine questions: Emma's age, the name of the school, whether she was in immediate danger. Lisa answered quickly, the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. The dispatcher assured her that the school resource officer would be notified and that someone would follow up. But Lisa knew she couldn't just wait. As soon as she hung up, she grabbed her car keys. She needed answers. She needed to see Emma, to let her know she wasn't alone. The drive to the school felt like it took forever. Every stoplight, every slow-moving car only made her frustration grow. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, replaying the footage in her mind. The laughter. The shoves. Emma sitting alone in the cafeteria. How had she not noticed sooner? She had asked Emma about school plenty of times, but her daughter always reassured her that everything was fine. Now she understood why Emma didn't want her to worry. When Lisa finally pulled into the school parking lot, she barely waited for the car to stop before stepping out. The front office was quiet when she walked in, but the receptionist looked up with a polite smile. How can I help you? Lisa's voice was firm but controlled. I need to speak with the principal. Now. The receptionist hesitated. Do you have an appointment? Lisa took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. No. But this is urgent. My daughter, Emma Bennett, is a student here. I have video evidence of her being bullied. I need to speak with someone immediately. The receptionist's smile faded, and she nodded. Let me see if Principal Carter is available. Lisa waited, her heart pounding. A few minutes later, she was led into the principal's office. Principal Carter, a middle-aged woman with a kind but tired face, gestured for Lisa to sit. Mrs. Bennett, what's going on? Lisa wasted no time. She pulled out her laptop, opened the video, and turned the screen toward the principal. As the footage played, she watched the woman's expression shift from curiosity to shock, then to deep concern. When it ended, there was a long silence. This is unacceptable, Principal Carter finally said, shaking her head. I had no idea this was happening to Emma. Lisa's frustration bubbled over. How could you not know? This wasn't just a one-time thing. It's been happening for weeks, maybe longer. Where were the teachers? The lunch monitors? Why didn't anyone step in? Principal Carter exhaled, rubbing her temples. I understand why you're upset, and you have every right to be. I promise you, we will investigate this immediately. I will speak with the students involved and take appropriate action. That's not enough, Lisa snapped. I don't want words, I want action. I want these kids held accountable. I want to know that my daughter will be safe here. Before Principal Carter could respond, there was a knock at the door. A man in a security uniform stepped inside. The school resource officer. I was told there's an issue that needs my attention. Lisa turned to him. Yes. I want to file an official report. I want this documented. The officer nodded. Let's talk. As Lisa explained everything again, her anger remained, but underneath it, a deeper emotion settled in: guilt. She had trusted the school to protect Emma. She had believed her daughter was safe. And yet, she had been suffering in silence. When the meeting finally ended, Lisa walked out of the office feeling exhausted but determined. This wasn't over. She wouldn't stop until something changed. But as she made her way through the hallways, something caught her attention: a small voice, a familiar one. Emma. Lisa turned the corner and saw her daughter standing near her classroom door, her fingers running gently over Max's fur. She was talking to another student, a boy Lisa didn't recognize. His hands were stuffed into his pockets, and he looked nervous. Emma, The boy hesitated. I'm sorry. Emma tilted her head slightly. For what? The boy swallowed hard. For not saying anything. I saw what they did to you. I wanted to help, but I was scared. Lisa froze, watching the scene unfold. Emma was quiet for a moment, then gave a small, sad smile. It's okay, she said softly. I understand. But Lisa didn't. She didn't understand how anyone could just stand by and do nothing. And she wasn't going to let it happen again. Lisa stood there, her heart pounding as she watched Emma interact with the boy. She had no idea who he was, but his words stuck with her. He had seen everything, yet he had been too afraid to speak up. How many others had witnessed the bullying and chosen to look the other way? The thought made her stomach churn. She stepped forward, gently placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. Emma turned her head slightly, recognizing her mother's presence. Mom, she asked, sensing the tension in the air. Lisa cleared her throat, trying to keep her voice steady. I came to talk to the principal, she said. About what's been happening. Emma's fingers curled slightly around Max's harness. You saw the video, she murmured. Lisa nodded, even though Emma couldn't see the gesture. Yes, sweetheart. I saw everything. Emma let out a shaky breath. I didn't want you to worry. Lisa crouched down to her daughter's level, taking her hands in her own. Emma, you don't have to protect me. That's my job. I should have known something was wrong. The boy standing nearby shifted uncomfortably, his gaze on the floor. She never told anyone, he admitted. She just took it. Like she thought she had to. Lisa looked at him carefully. What's your name? Jordan, he said quietly. Jordan, why are you telling her this now? Lisa asked. He hesitated, kicking the toe of his sneaker against the tiled floor. Because it's not fair. Anne. I feel guilty. I should have said something earlier. Emma gave him a small smile. It's okay, she repeated, but Lisa could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Lisa exhaled, looking at the two kids in front of her. Jordan had been a bystander, silent for too long, but at least now he was speaking up. Maybe others would too. But that didn't change what had already happened to Emma. She still had to walk these halls every day, surrounded by the same kids who had hurt her. As if reading her mind, Emma suddenly asked, what's going to happen now? Lisa hesitated. The school is investigating. The officer I spoke to is filing a report. Emma nodded slowly, absorbing the information. Will they do anything? Lisa wished she could say yes with certainty. But she had seen too many stories where schools failed to act, where bullying was brushed under the rug. I won't stop until they do, she promised. As they walked out of the school, Lisa's mind was racing. She couldn't just rely on the administration to handle things. She needed to do more. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, replaying the footage over and over. The way Emma flinched at sudden movements. The way she shrank into herself when someone pushed her. The way she stayed silent even when they threw things at her. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You should back off. You don't want to make things worse. Lisa's blood ran cold. She stared at the screen, reading the words again. Who was this? One of the bullies? A parent? Her first instinct was to call the police, but she hesitated. What if they dismissed it as just another prank? No. She needed to find out who was behind this. The next day, when she dropped Emma off at school, she parked the car but didn't leave. Instead, she waited, watching the students as they walked inside. She was looking for something, anything, that felt off. And then she saw it. A group of students huddled together, whispering. One of them glanced in her direction before quickly looking away. A girl with long blonde hair, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Lisa recognized her from the video. She had been one of the ringleaders. Lisa's jaw tightened. She wasn't about to let this go. Meanwhile, inside the school, Emma walked to her locker, gripping Max's harness a little tighter than usual. She could feel the stares on her, the whispers that followed her through the halls. She had always ignored them before, but now, after everything, they felt louder. Hey, Emma. She turned her head slightly at the familiar voice. Jordan. You don't have to walk alone, he said, falling into step beside her. She hesitated, then nodded. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. But she still had no idea what was coming next. Lisa's grip on the steering wheel tightened as she watched the group of students outside the school doors. She could see the blonde girl whispering to another student, her eyes flickering toward Lisa's car before quickly looking away. Lisa's instincts screamed that this wasn't just paranoia, these kids knew something. Maybe they were even involved in the message she had received. But she couldn't confront them. Not yet. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. The officer she had spoken to before had said they were investigating, but Lisa needed more than just empty reassurances. She needed action. Before she could talk herself out of it, she tapped the number and waited as the phone rang. Officer Ramirez, a voice answered. It's Lisa Carter. I got a text last night. A threat. There was a pause on the other end. A threat. What did it say? Lisa read the message aloud, her voice firm despite the way her stomach twisted. You should back off. You don't want to make things worse. Ramirez exhaled. Do you recognize the number? No. It's blocked. Could be a prank, but I don't like the timing, he admitted. You said you were going to the school, speaking with the principal, right? Yes. And I saw one of the girls from the video today. She kept looking at me like she knew something. Ramirez hesitated. We're looking into it, but these things take time. Lisa clenched her jaw. Emma doesn't have time. She walks into that school every day not knowing if it's going to get worse. I hear you, Ramirez said. But don't do anything reckless. Let us handle it. Lisa wanted to believe that. She wanted to trust that the authorities would take this seriously. But she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more happening beneath the surface, something they weren't seeing yet. Inside the school, Emma could feel the shift in the air. Ever since her mother had started asking questions, the bullying had taken a different turn. The physical taunts had stopped, no more shoves, no more things thrown at her when the teachers weren't looking. But the whispers had grown louder, more cruel. She could hear them now, just a few lockers away. Her mom thinks she's some kind of detective. A snicker. Maybe she should worry about what's really going on instead. Emma pretended not to hear, but her fingers clenched around Max's harness. She wasn't sure what they meant by that, but it made her uneasy. And then there was Jordan. Ever since he had started walking with her, things had been different. The other kids didn't bother her as much when he was around. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just that they didn't want to witness. You okay? He asked quietly. Emma nodded, but she wasn't sure she meant it. At lunch, she sat at her usual table, Max lying obediently at her feet. She could feel the tension in the room, even if she couldn't see the stairs. And then, something unexpected happened. A tray clattered onto the table across from her. Mind if I sit here? Emma recognized the voice instantly. Jordan. You sure you want to? She asked. He sighed. Look, I know I should have said something earlier. But I'm saying something now. Emma hesitated, then nodded. Okay. The whispers around them grew louder, but for the first time, Emma didn't feel quite as alone. Meanwhile, outside, Lisa wasn't ready to sit back and wait. She had an idea, one that might finally bring the truth to light. She wasn't just going to rely on the school's cameras or the police investigation. She was going to set her own trap. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, carefully attaching a small recording device to Max's harness. This time, she wasn't just going to watch. She was going to listen. The next morning, Emma ran her fingers over the tiny device before they left for school. Will it really work? She asked. Lisa kissed her forehead. I just want to make sure you're safe. Emma nodded, then turned toward the door. She had no idea what the day would bring. But neither did Lisa. And when she finally reviewed the footage later that evening, what she heard would make her blood run cold. Lisa's hands trembled as she plugged the recording device into her laptop, her heart pounding with anticipation. The screen flickered, and the audio began to play. At first, it was just the usual sounds of the school, footsteps, lockers slamming, muffled voices. Then, she heard Emma's voice, quiet and cautious as she greeted someone in the hallway. Lisa recognized Jordan's response, calm and reassuring. For a while, nothing seemed too alarming. But then, just past the lunch period, the tone shifted. A girl's voice, sharp, mocking. So, Emma, how's your little spy mission going? Laughter followed, and Lisa's stomach twisted. I don't know what you're talking about, Emma said, her voice steady but unsure. Another voice chimed in, lower, more threatening. Your mom's been snooping around too much. People don't like that. Lisa gripped the table, a chill running down her spine. Emma hesitated. Why do you care? The second voice scoffed. Because secrets are meant to stay secret. You should tell her to stop before things get complicated. Lisa felt a surge of panic. This wasn't just bullying. This was something more. Something dangerous. Then, another sound, a sharp movement, followed by a startled yelp from Maximum. Lisa's chest tightened. Someone had grabbed Emma's guide dog. The sound of struggle was brief, but unmistakable. A teacher's voice interrupted, stern but unaware of the deeper tension in the exchange. What's going on here? Silence. Then a voice, casual, dismissive. Nothing, Ms. Carter. Just talking. Lisa could hear Emma's breathing, fast and uneven. Come on, Max, she whispered, and then the audio continued with the sounds of her hurried footsteps down the hall. Lisa slammed her laptop shut, her pulse racing. This wasn't just about schoolyard bullying. Someone was actively trying to intimidate Emma, to scare Lisa into silence. And she had a terrible feeling that whoever it was wouldn't stop at just warnings. That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the words in her head. Secrets are meant to stay secret. What secret? What could a group of teenagers possibly be hiding that was serious enough to threaten a blind girl and her mother? The next morning, Lisa was at the school before the first bell rang. She marched straight into the principal's office, her hands gripping the recording device. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice firm. Principal Reynolds glanced up, startled. Mrs. Carter, is everything all right? Lisa placed the device on the desk. Listen to this. Right now. Reynolds hesitated, then pressed play. As the voices filled the office, her face darkened. This is serious, she admitted. I'll speak to the students involved. Lisa shook her head. That's not enough. My daughter is being threatened. Someone grabbed her dog. This is beyond just school discipline. We need the police involved. Reynolds hesitated again. I understand your concern, but we have protocols. Protocols? Lisa snapped. You don't have a protocol for this. The principal exhaled, rubbing her temples. I'll make some calls. But please, let us handle it first. Lisa left the office feeling no better than when she had entered. She knew that whatever was going on, it wasn't going to be solved with a few detentions. Meanwhile, Emma sat in class, feeling a weight settle in her chest. She could tell something was wrong. The air felt heavier, the whispers more hushed than usual. Then, during lunch, she felt someone sit beside her. The scent of cologne and the slight creak of a leather jacket told her it was Jordan. They know, he said quietly. Emma turned her head toward him. What do you mean? The recording, he whispered. Someone found out. Emma's stomach dropped. How? Jordan hesitated. I don't know. But people are talking. They're saying your mom is making trouble. And when people make trouble... He trailed off. Emma swallowed hard. What do they do? Jordan exhaled. They make it go away. A shiver ran down Emma's spine. It wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. And this time, she had no doubt that whoever was behind it wasn't afraid to follow through. Lisa's hands trembled as she gripped her phone, her mind racing with fear. The threats against Emma weren't just empty words, someone was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. She had to act fast. Ignoring the principal's hesitation, she dialed 911. Her voice was urgent but steady as she explained everything, the audio recording, the threats, the way Emma's guide dog had been grabbed. The dispatcher assured her that an officer would be sent to the school immediately. Meanwhile, Emma sat in the cafeteria, her fingers lightly brushing Max's fur for comfort. Jordan was still beside her, but she could sense his tension. The atmosphere in the room had changed. It wasn't just the usual whispers, there was something heavier, something unspoken. Then, a voice came from behind. Emma, we need to talk. It was the same low voice from the recording. A chill ran down her spine. Emma turned her head slightly. I don't have anything to say to you. A hand gripped her arm, firm but not forceful. Come with us. Now. Max let out a low growl, but Emma could tell that whoever it was wasn't afraid. Jordan tensed beside her, his voice firm. Let her go. There was a pause. Then, a cold chuckle. Relax. We just want to make sure she understands the rules. Emma's heart pounded. She knew she couldn't just walk away. But before she could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "Step away from her." It was Officer Ramirez. Lisa had arrived just behind him, her expression tight with worry. The officer's hand rested on his holster, his stance firm. The cafeteria fell silent. The boy holding Emma's arm hesitated, then let go. "We were just talking," he said, his voice smooth, too casual. Ramirez didn't move. "Why don't you have that conversation in my office?" The tension thickened, but with so many eyes watching, the boy didn't argue. He took a step back. "Whatever you say, officer." Lisa rushed to Emma's side, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "Are you okay?" Emma nodded, but her hands were shaking. She could feel her mother's heart racing just as fast as hers. As the officer escorted the boy and 2 others out of the cafeteria, Lisa turned to Jordan. "Thank you for staying with her." Jordan just nodded, but Emma could hear the unspoken words in his silence. Later that evening, as Lisa sat in the police station, Officer Ramirez placed a folder in front of her. "We looked into the students from the recording. And we found something." Lisa braced herself. "What?" The officer exhaled. "It's bigger than we thought. These kids. They weren't just bullying Emma. They were involved in something more dangerous. Something illegal." Lisa's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Ramirez's voice was grave. "A group of students has been running an operation, stealing exam papers, hacking into school systems, even blackmailing teachers. And they saw you as a threat." Lisa's stomach twisted. "Because I was asking too many questions." The officer nodded. "And because Emma had maximum. They knew she had a way to record things without anyone noticing. That made her a risk." Lisa's hands clenched into fists. "They threatened my daughter over this. They were getting desperate," Ramirez said. "But now that we have evidence, we can put a stop to it." Relief washed over Lisa, but it was quickly followed by exhaustion. It wasn't over yet, but at least they weren't alone anymore. As they left the station that night, Emma held onto Max's leash a little tighter. "Mom," she whispered. "Yeah, sweetheart." Emma hesitated. "Did we do the right thing?" Lisa knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes," she said softly. "We did the right thing." And for the first time in days, Emma felt safe. The days following the police investigation were a whirlwind of emotions for Lisa and Emma. The school took immediate action, suspending the students involved while law enforcement continued to gather evidence. Word spread quickly, and for the first time, Emma wasn't just the blind girl with a guide dog, she was the girl who had helped uncover something much bigger. At first, Emma wasn't sure how to feel about it. She never wanted to be in the spotlight, and the attention made her uneasy. But something had changed. The students who had once ignored her or whispered behind her back now spoke to her with respect. Some even apologized. It didn't erase what had happened, but it was a start. Jordan stuck by her side, just like he always had. "You're kind of famous now," he joked one afternoon as they sat outside during lunch. Emma sighed, stroking Max's fur. "I don't want to be famous. I just want to be normal." Jordan nodded. "Well, normal or not, people see you differently now. And that's not a bad thing." Lisa, meanwhile, found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. The fear, the uncertainty, the overwhelming responsibility of protecting her daughter, it had been exhausting. But looking at Emma now, seeing her stand a little taller, she knew they had done the right thing. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Emma reached for her mother's hand. "Mom, do you think things will ever go back to how they were before?" Lisa squeezed her daughter's fingers gently. "I don't think they will," she admitted. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe things will be better." Emma thought about that for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, maybe they will." The school soon implemented new policies to ensure better safety for all students. Teachers and staff were trained to recognize signs of bullying and misconduct. Anonymous reporting systems were put in place. And while it didn't change the past, it meant that future students like Emma, would have a safer environment. As time passed, life slowly returned to a new kind of normal. The whispers faded. The fear subsided. Emma continued her routine with Max, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she truly belonged. One afternoon, as she and Jordan walked to their next class, he nudged her lightly. "You know, your mom never got rid of that camera on Max's harness." Emma laughed. "I know. She still checks the footage every now and then, just to make sure I'm okay. Jordan grinned. Guess she's not taking any chances. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. Yeah. And I think I'm okay with that. As they walked down the hall, the past still lingered, but it no longer held them back. They had faced their fears, uncovered the truth, and come out stronger. And though the journey had been difficult, they had learned something important. Sometimes, standing up for what's right means stepping into the unknown. But with the right people by your side, you can find your way through anything.